Our Lord's Sermon on the Mount explained by Saint Augustine, chapter 19 following. Thus, therefore, it is necessary for one not to boast of such things in a hypocritical way, but to be prepared in the heart itself for all things, so that he can sing that prophetic word, "My heart is prepared, O God, my heart is prepared." For many have learned how to offer the other cheek, but do not know how to love him by whom they are struck. But in truth, the Lord himself, who certainly was the first to fulfill the precepts which he taught, did not offer the other cheek to the servant of the high priest when smiting him thereon. But so far from that said, "If I have spoken evil, hear witness of the evil. But if well, why do you smite me?" Yes, was he not on that account unprepared in heart for the salvation of all, not merely to be smitten on the other cheek, but even to have his whole body crucified? Hence also what follows. "And if any man will sue you at the law and take away your coat, let him have your cloak also," is rightly understood as a precept having reference to the preparation of heart, not to a vain show of outward deed. But what is said with respect to the coat and cloak is to be carried out not merely in such things, but in the case of everything which on any ground of right we speak of as being ours for time. For if this command is given with respect to what is necessary, how much more does it become us to contemn what is superfluous? But still those things which I have called ours are to be included in that category under which the Lord himself gives the precept when he says, "If any man will sue you at the law and take away your coat, let all these things therefore be understood, for which we may be sued at the law, so that the right to them may pass from us to him who sues, or for whom he sues, such for instance as clothing, a house and estate, a beast of burden, and in general all kinds of property." But whether it is to be understood of slaves also is a great question. For a Christian ought not to possess a slave in the same way as a horse or money, although it may happen that a horse is valued at a greater price than a slave, and some article of gold or silver at much more. But with respect to that slave, if he is being educated and ruled by time as his master, in a way more upright and more honorable, and more conducing to the fear of God, than can be done by him who desires to take him away, I do not know whether anyone would dare to say that he ought to be despised like a garment. For a man ought to love a fellow man as himself, inasmuch as he is commanded by the Lord of all, as is shown by what follows, even to love his enemies. It is carefully to be observed that every tunic is a garment, but that every garment is not a tunic. Hence the word garment means more than the word tunic. And therefore I think it is so expressed, "And if anyone will sue you at the law and take away your tunic, let him have your garment also," as if he had said, "Whoever wishes to take away your tunic, give over to him whatever other clothing you have." And so some have interpreted the word pallium, which in the Greek as used here is himation. "And whosoever," says he, "shall compel you to go a mile, go with him other two." And this certainly not so much in the sense that you should do it on foot, as you should be prepared in mind to do it. For in the Christian history itself, which is authoritative, you will find no such thing done by the saints or by the Lord himself, when in his human nature, which he condescended to assume, he was showing us an example of how to live, while at the same time in almost all places you will find them prepared to bear with equanimity whatever may have been wickedly forced upon them. But are we to suppose it is said for the sake of the mere expression, "Go with him other two," or did he rather wish that 3 should be completed, the number which has the meaning of perfection, so that everyone should remember when he does this, that he is fulfilling perfect righteousness by compassionately bearing the infirmities of those whom he wishes to be made whole? It may seem for this reason also that he has recommended these precepts by 3 examples, of which the first is, "If anyone shall smite you on the cheek," the second, "If anyone shall wish to take away your coat," the third, "If anyone shall compel you to go a mile," in which third example twice as much is added to the original unit, so that in this way the triplet is completed. And if this number in the passage before us does not, as has been said, mean perfection, let this be understood that in laying down his precepts, as it were beginning with what is more tolerable, he has gradually gone on until he has reached as far as the enduring of twice as much more. For in the first place he wished the other cheek to be presented when the right had been smitten, so that you may be prepared to bear less than you have borne. For whatever the right means, as it is at least something more dear than that which is meant by the left. And if one who has borne with something in what is more dear bears with it in what is less dear, it is something less. Then, secondly, in the case of one who wishes to take away a coat, he enjoins that the garment also should be given up to him, which is either just as much or not much more, not however twice as much. In the third place, with respect to the mile, to which he says that 2 miles are to be added, he enjoins that you should bear with even twice as much more, thus signifying that whether it be somewhat less than the original demand, or just as much or more that any wicked man shall wish to take from you, it is to be borne with tranquil mind.